I woke up thinking it would be just another ordinary morning. The light was slipping through the curtains, soft and golden, and I could already smell the coffee brewing in the kitchen. I tied my robe a little tighter and tried to shake the heaviness in my chest. That feeling, the one that had been lingering for weeks, was back again. Something about my marriage didn't feel right. He'd been distant, cold, like he wasn't really there even when he was sitting right next to me. But I kept brushing it off. Stress, I told myself. Work's been hard. Maybe he's just tired. I clung to that excuse like it was a life raft. I reached for my phone, expecting the usual. Maybe a "don't forget the dry cleaning" or a "love you, see you tonight." But instead, I saw it. One message. Just one. And it felt like a knife straight through my chest. "Pack your things and get out. I have a new girlfriend now." No explanation, no warning, just those cold, merciless words staring back at me. I froze. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. I tried calling him, twice, then again, and again. Straight to voicemail. I drove home, our home, but the locks had already been changed. I stood there, outside the door we'd once painted together, like a stranger, a ghost. Everything I thought I knew had vanished in a single brutal sentence. I didn't cry at first. I think I was too stunned to even breathe properly. I just sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel, while the world outside kept moving like nothing had happened. People walked their dogs, kids rode bikes. And there I was, discarded like garbage, humiliated beyond belief. My hands were numb, my face hot. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. How do you even begin to process something like that? 1 minute you're someone's wife. The next, you're nobody. The hours after that are a blur. I remember parking near a gas station, sitting there until the sky turned dark. I couldn't go back to the house. Hell, I wasn't allowed to go back. Everything I owned, my clothes, my memories, my entire life, was trapped behind a door I no longer had a key to. And he vanished. No response, no apology. Just silence. It was like I had been erased, deleted. Like all those years of love and sacrifice had never even happened. I called a friend. My voice cracked so badly she barely understood me. She told me to come over. Thank God she did. That night, lying on a borrowed couch under a scratchy blanket, I stared at the ceiling and asked myself the question I never thought I'd ask. How did it all come to this? And more terrifying than that, what am I supposed to do now? That night broke something in me. Not just my heart, but something deeper. Something I didn't even have a name for. I felt hollow, like my soul had packed its own bags and left too. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Our anniversaries, our quiet Sundays, the way he used to look at me when I laughed. Was it all fake? When did he stop loving me? Or worse, had he ever truly loved me at all? These questions haunted me, clinging to every breath I took. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just existed. People say heartbreak is like a wound, but no one tells you it feels like being buried alive. I went through the motions, smiling when someone asked if I was okay, nodding like I understood what was being said, even though every sound felt a million miles away. And the humiliation? That was the worst part. Everyone would know, everyone would whisper, and I had no answers. Just that damn message echoing in my head. But here's the thing about being shattered. At some point, you stop feeling sorry for yourself. You start picking up the pieces, even if your hands are bleeding. I didn't know it then, not really. But something inside me had already started shifting. A quiet burning ember in the ashes of everything I thought I was. I moved in with my sister the next day. She didn't ask many questions. Just opened the door, hugged me tight, and made tea. That simple gesture almost broke me all over again. For the first few nights, I slept in her guest room, if you could call it sleeping. I'd close my eyes and see his face, hear his voice. And then that text, like a thunderclap, over and over again. It felt like I was stuck in some twisted loop, one I couldn't claw my way out of. I was a shell, a ghost, existing between the before and whatever came next. But grief is strange. It changes shape. Some days I'd cry over the sound of a song on the radio. Other days, I'd feel nothing at all. Numbness became my armor. I stopped checking my phone. I avoided social media like it was poison. The world I had once shared with him, our friends, our photos, our memories, it all felt like shattered glass. I didn't dare touch it. Not yet. Not when everything still hurt so deeply. It was my sister who finally said it. One afternoon, as we sat in silence, she looked at me and said, "You didn't deserve that. You know that, right?" I wanted to believe her. I really did. But all I could manage was a weak nod. Because deep down, a part of me still felt like maybe I had done something wrong. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe that's why he left. A few weeks passed. I started moving around again, like a person learning how to walk after a long illness. I wasn't okay, but I was functioning, making my own coffee, folding laundry, answering emails. And then one afternoon, curiosity got the better of me. I opened my old social media account. Just to peek, I told myself. Just to see. That's when the real gut punch came. There he was, smiling in photos, wrapped around a girl who looked like she barely remembered the 90s. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. It wasn't just that he'd moved on. It was how shameless he was about it. The captions, the hashtags, the fake glowing comments from people we both used to know. Like I had evaporated, like I'd never been part of his life at all. And her? She was tagging him in everything, kissing selfies, gym pics, even a post that said, "Finally found a real man." I stared at that one the longest. My hands clenched so tightly I felt my nails dig into my palm. But the worst came later. One of our old mutual friends sent me a screenshot. The new girlfriend had posted something cruel, targeted, passive-aggressive, but sharp enough to draw blood. A photo of my ex holding her from behind with the caption, "Some women don't realize they're just a warm-up act." That was the moment something in me shifted. Something inside me didn't break. It woke up. I stared at that post for a long time. Not because it hurt, though it did, but because it made something click. For weeks I had drowned in sadness, humiliation, regret. I had asked myself 1,000 times, why me? But now, that question started to change. Why not her? Why not him? Why should they get to walk away smiling while I'm left picking up the pieces of a life they burned to the ground? That wasn't self-pity anymore. That was the start of anger. Cold, focused, and quiet, like a storm waiting for its moment. And once I let myself feel that anger, really feel it, it didn't consume me. It cleared the fog. I saw everything with sharper eyes. The lies, the patterns, the way he had pulled away gradually, keeping me in the dark while building a new life behind my back. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a decision. And decisions have consequences. That night, I opened my laptop. Not to check his profile or cry over old photos, but to start a folder. I called it Jennifer 2.0. In it, I began jotting down everything I could remember. Conversations, names, accounts, secrets he had once spilled to me without a second thought. At the time, I didn't know exactly why I was doing it, but something told me I'd need it later. I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror at first, not because she looked different, though soon enough she would, but because she felt different. For so long I had been shrinking myself, tiptoeing around a man who had already mentally packed his bags. But now I was doing things for me. I booked a haircut. Just a trim at first, then a new color. I bought a pair of bold red heels I'd never dared to wear before. And you know what? I wore them to the grocery store just because I could. But this transformation wasn't just skin deep. I started therapy. At first, it was hard, sitting in that chair, peeling back layers I didn't even know I had. But the more I talked, the more I remembered who I was before I became his wife. I was smart. I was funny. I had dreams. And now I had something else too. Focus. All those nights he'd bragged about being untouchable? I was paying attention. The offshore accounts, the shady consulting gigs, The cash he always insisted on keeping hidden. He thought he was so clever. He forgot who he used to confide in when he needed to brag. That's when the idea started to take shape. What if I could turn the tables, quietly? What if I could become someone new, someone he wouldn't see coming? So I created her. A woman he'd never met. A digital ghost. Attractive, flirty, mysterious. I knew exactly how to bait the hook. And if there was one thing I still understood better than anyone, it was how to push his buttons. I started small, sending casual messages from my new online persona. Flirty, playful, just enough to catch his attention without raising suspicion. And guess what? He took the bait. Like a moth to a flame, he couldn't resist the thrill of a fresh admirer who seemed to hang on his every word. He bragged, he flirted, even sent photos, completely unaware that the woman on the other side was me, watching every move. Every message he sent, every little slip-up, I saved. Conversations, voice notes, even videos he thought were private. It was like watching a slow unraveling, except this time, I was in control. The man who once held all the power was now revealing himself piece by piece, unaware he was trapped in a web he didn't even see being spun. But it wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about taking back what he'd stolen from me, my dignity, my peace, my life. And as the digital cat and mouse game grew more intense, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. This was my moment, my chance to rewrite the ending. And believe me, it was going to be one hell of a story. Every day, I collected more. Screenshots, secret messages, little hints he dropped about his lies and shady dealings. He thought he was untouchable, that his secrets were buried deep. But I had the map now. Piece by piece, I was putting it all together like a puzzle no one else could see. I replayed his words in my mind, how smug he'd been when boasting about hiding money or fooling his boss. Funny how fast those bragging rights turn to poison when you hold the proof. I stayed patient, knowing the moment to strike was coming. He was wrapped up in his new life, blinded by arrogance, falling for my fake persona like a moth to a flame. The trap was almost ready to snap shut, and when it did, it wouldn't just be a victory for me, it would be a reckoning. But for now, I kept my cards close. Quiet, watching, waiting. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge is the one that nobody sees coming. The day I hit send on that anonymous email, I felt a surge I can't quite explain. All those months of quiet collecting, of hiding behind screens and lies, it all came down to this. I wasn't just exposing his cheating anymore, I was peeling back the curtain on everything. The texts, the photos, even the little legal shortcuts he thought no one would ever notice. I didn't do it out of spite alone. No, this was about justice, about making sure the truth couldn't be swept under the rug. I watched from the sidelines as the dominoes began to fall. The new girlfriend's message lit a fire under him. Public confrontation, humiliation in front of friends, family, and strangers alike. Then came the most delicious part, his boss. An anonymous tip landed right in the CEO's inbox, detailing not just infidelity, but fraud and tax evasion. Suddenly, the man who once acted untouchable was scrambling to control a narrative that was rapidly slipping through his fingers. But the best was yet to come. I sent him the invitation myself, a dinner with old friends to make peace. The audacity, the arrogance. He took the bait, thought I was still the same woman he'd discarded. He had no idea I was the storm waiting in the wings. The night of the dinner arrived, and I could feel the electricity in the air before I even walked through the door. Faces I hadn't seen in years, eyes full of questions and half-truths. He was there, smug, confident, dressed like he still owned the room. But beneath that mask, I could see the cracks starting to form. The texts I sent, the rumors spreading, the whispers that no amount of charm could silence. As we all settled around the table, I played my part perfectly. Warm smiles, polite laughter, pretending to be the nostalgic woman he thought I was. Little did he know, I was holding the final pieces of the puzzle close to my chest. The same man who once controlled my world was now sitting right where I wanted him, under the spotlight, vulnerable, exposed. Every word I spoke that night had a double meaning, every glance a silent message. The stage was set, and I was ready. It was time to show everyone the truth behind his polished lies, and when I did, there'd be no turning back. When I finally stood to speak, the room fell silent like the calm before a storm. I thanked everyone for coming, no hesitation, no tremble in my voice. Then I clicked the remote. The screen lit up behind me and the presentation began. How to lose everything in 90 days. Screenshots, voice messages, videos, proof laid bare for all to see. I watched his face change, shock, anger, desperation, every flicker of emotion a silent victory. Some people reached for their phones, others looked away, some whispered among themselves. The web of lies unraveled faster than anyone expected. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about the truth, his truth, and how it finally caught up to him. And while the room buzzed with stunned silence, I knew this was only the beginning. Because beneath every fall, there's a rise. And I was already on my way up. Standing there, watching the evidence spill across the screen, I felt a calm unlike anything I'd known in months. The years of pain, humiliation, and betrayal all funneled into this moment. Pure, undeniable truth. Friends gasped. Some shifted uncomfortably, others stared in disbelief. And him? He was frozen, stripped bare in front of everyone who once believed in his charm. I could see the slow crumbling of his carefully constructed facade. The man who'd lied, cheated, and played games was finally exposed. But I wasn't done yet. I told the room that I'd already taken steps behind the scenes. The joint accounts were frozen, the lawsuit filed, and yes, I had bought the apartment we once shared. It was mine now. A silent, final reclaiming of what he thought he could just throw away. As I looked around the room, I caught the eyes of those who had doubted me, those who thought I'd fall apart. But I wasn't just standing there as a victim. I was standing there reborn. And I knew this was my moment to walk away, stronger, wiser, and free. The room was heavy with silence. Some people pulled out their phones, capturing what they could, like evidence of a crime scene unfolding. Others whispered, stunned by the weight of it all. I caught glimpses of shock on faces I hadn't seen in years, and I smiled quietly to myself. This was more than just justice. It was poetic, personal, and long overdue. His attempts to explain, to deny, were weak and desperate. But no one was listening. The man who once held all the power was now powerless, his reputation shattered in a way that no charm or lies could fix. I could feel the energy shift in the room, the tide turning in my favor. The victory wasn't just mine, it was for every woman who's ever been discarded and left to pick up the pieces. And as I turned to leave, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. A deep, unshakable peace that came not from revenge itself, but from reclaiming my story and writing my own ending. I walked out of that room knowing I was free. Every step was lighter, every breath easier. The woman who had been shattered, humiliated, and erased was gone. In her place stood someone unbreakable, someone who had turned pain into power, heartbreak into a weapon. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. The apartment keys were in my hand, a symbol of everything reclaimed and rebuilt. It wasn't just a space, it was my fortress, my fresh start. And as I closed that door behind me, I knew the story wasn't just about losing or winning. It was about rising, about rewriting the narrative when life tries to write it for you. This was my last message to him, and to anyone who ever doubted me. I'm here, I'm whole, and I'm just getting started.